there, my name is Jasmine Skye, and I'm here today filming a video to take a break from going through Author Mentor Match submissions. There are so many good submissions in my inbox. It's been really hard to whittle it down, but I have been looking through some of the fulls I've requested and some of the 50 pages that I want to maybe send a little bit of feedback on, and I thought it would be a good time to do this video that was requested quite a while ago actually, which was from Letha Anderson. Let's put it right there. And basically Letha wants to know how to critique the works of others. So today I have 5 tips that you can follow if you want to be a better critique partner. But before we get into the tips, let's just go over terminology a little bit, which is critique partner versus beta. What exactly is the difference? People use them interchangeably, and the reality is it's kind of a contested topic. If you ask different writers, they will give you different responses as to the difference of a critique partner versus a beta. I have always thought that a critique partner is someone who is critiquing your work from the point of view of being a writer and giving you craft ideas and tips and places that they see the craft is falling short, versus a beta is critiquing your work from the point of view of a reader and giving you more things about the enjoyment of the read and how well it flows and things like that. So those were always my interpretations. Another interpretation of the difference that I've heard that I quite like is that a beta is either like a one-off relationship or is sort of a one-way relationship where they might read and critique your story, but there's no sort of intention of reciprocity. Yeah, that's the word. Versus a critique partner is someone who you are sharing your work, they are sharing theirs, and there's this idea that you're both going to be critiquing for each other, possibly for multiple manuscripts. So it's more of a partnership, versus a beta is helping you without that reciprocal relationship going on. Regardless of terminology, in the end of the day, if you are asked and agree to critique someone's work, whether as a beta or a CP, or if you're in a workshop or whatever it may be, here are some tips that might help you when it comes to giving good critique that the author, the writer of that piece will actually find useful and will help them towards revising. So let's start with number 1, which is to take notes as you go. Now, in the case of short stories or single chapter critiques, sometimes people prefer to just go ahead and read the whole thing and then reread it and take notes. For me though, especially because I'm normally critiquing like whole books or whole sections of books, I find it a lot easier, and I know a lot of people find it easier to go ahead and take notes as you are reading. The problem with waiting, especially in the case of a whole book, to take notes is that sometimes you forget some of the initial things you were thinking of, like at the beginning of the book, and then you don't have that feedback to give them because you're focused on other things that maybe come up towards the end or the middle of the novel, and those are the things that get more attention. So I find it very useful to just jot notes down as I am reading. And this is also very helpful for tip number 2, which is pretend you are a live audience. One thing that is really great when you are critiquing or betaing for someone, if you are working in their Word document, then something that all of us writers tend to really enjoy receiving are live reactions to things. So that could be a comment in the Word document, or it can be in the email where you just list like your favorite lines and things like that. People have done it different ways, but comments in Word document tend to be the typical way that people do this, or in a Google Doc, and you just give those live reactions as if you were the audience at a stage play, and you're going to ooh and ah and gasp and give whatever reactions you are having to different scenes. One very useful thing about those live reactions, on top of being very encouraging for the author, it also shows them the scenes that are working, because maybe there was a scene that they wanted to have a reaction at that they thought was a really tense scene, and you don't give any live reactions because it just didn't really do it for you. So that can be a very useful piece of feedback as well, and I think everyone finds it really fun if you have the time to do that. Now, sometimes with betas, all they will give you is the live reactions, and in the ye olde days of fandom, when it's just live reactions, we used to call that being a cheerleader, not being a beta. I think it's very important to have a mix of reactions to specific scenes or characters or moments, and also tip number 3, which is to write an edit letter. Now this can sound very intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. There's a couple different ways you can do an edit letter. Typically, you put them in the body of an email that you're responding to the person who sent you their piece, and you can set it up a couple different ways. One way that I've had critique partners and betas set it up for me is they break it up into sections. So they'll have a section that's what I loved about the story, and then a section that's things that could be improved or that didn't work for me, and then a section that was what I have questions about. And then they write all of the things in those sections that fit, and you can take it kind of piece by piece as the author when you're looking to start your revision. The other way to do an edit letter, which is the way I do my edit letters, is sometimes called the sandwich method, though there are different interpretations of the sandwich method as well. But my version of the sandwich method, which is typically what I do in an edit letter, is I write it a little bit more like an essay. So I will have an introduction paragraph that is sort of the overall things that I loved about the story, maybe with a couple specific examples. And then I'll go into my body paragraphs that are each a thing that needs to be edited, a thing that I am critiquing, a thing that I noticed that could be improved, or that I had a question about. It kind of all gets mixed up, and I kind of try to have a flow to my essay. There are things that need to be worked on that are connected. Those body paragraphs will flow into each other. And then I go through all of that until I end in my conclusion, which is another paragraph of positivity and encouragement and the stuff that I really liked and the reason that I really want to see that book succeed. So that's my edit letter, or you can do it in the sections. I think the sections are a little bit easier when you're starting out and you haven't done many edit letters before. And what's great about the sections, or with mine, is when you're jotting down those notes, like I said, as you're reading, you can jot them down into the appropriate areas. So I will jot down notes that are sort of clustered into things that will become body paragraphs, or you can jot down notes into, if it's something that you love, jot it down in a what I loved section, or jot it down in the, things I had a question about section. And then when you finish the whole piece, it's a lot easier to go and kind of clean up the edit letter and make it more presentable to the author when you send it back. Related to all of that, number 4 is be specific. So don't just give very general things that you noticed in your edit letter. Be very specific and give examples for the things that you think need improvement, or the things that you loved or what you had a question about. Go ahead and quote a specific line or a paragraph that shows off what it is that you're talking about. Think of it a little bit like an English essay where you're telling an argument, you're arguing that this is the thing that did not work, and here is the supporting evidence of it not working. And of course, it is always up to the author whether or not they're going to agree with what you're saying, but if you do your due diligence to give them those good specific examples, there's a higher chance that they'll understand where you're coming from, and maybe they'll tackle revisions in a slightly different way from what you might suggest, but at least they understand where the core problem is, instead of saying very vague things like the characterization didn't work for me. Well, what about the characterization? Give me that specific example of places where you thought the characterization fell flat or wasn't working, or maybe you just didn't like it, and when they see the specific examples of that and they think they like it that way, then they'll know, and that gives the agency back to them when they're revising. So I think it's very important to give those specific examples. And again, that's why you write things down as you're reading. Jot down a page number, jot down the line, whatever it is you want to do, so that it doesn't have as much work on the back end finding those specific examples again. And finally, tip number 5, ask the writer what they want. Different authors are looking for different things out of their critique partners or betas. I have a critique partner who really likes to know when I put down her book. So I note the places where I was maybe bored or distracted, and I set the book down and go do something else for a little while, because she wants to make sure that her book is going to have a good flow. So being able to know where those slow moments are helps her with her revision. I have other critique partners that tell me that they really need a lot of praise in between, the various levels of critique. So when I'm writing my edit letter, I might make it a little bit even more sandwichy, where I do some praise, critique, some praise, critique, some praise, critique, things like that. And then I have other critique partners that don't need the praise at all. They just want to know the things that weren't working for me. So it's good to know yourself as an author. It's good to know what you need, and there is no shame in needing more praise and encouragement or not. It's whatever works for you. Personally, I think a good mix is often the default and should be the best way, but if you know yourself and you know you need one or the other more extremely, then that's fine, and feel free to offer that information to the people that are going to critique or beta for you. But as a critique partner or a beta, when you're just starting out a relationship with someone, or if you haven't critiqued for them before, even if you have, but now you're watching this video and you're like, I could do this better, go ahead and ask them what it is that they want. Ask them if there's any particular things they're looking for. Maybe someone is coming on a revision where they know that their world building isn't quite there, or their characterization, and maybe they just want you to focus on critiquing that aspect of the story and not about the other aspects of the story. So knowing ahead of time what they're looking for is a really great way to be able to give them really concrete feedback that is going to help them with their revision. So there you go. I hope that was helpful. Thank you, Letha Anderson, for suggesting this video. If any of you have any topics that you'd like to hear me talk about, go ahead and put them down below. And I always jot down the different video requests you have. I might not film them for a while, depending on, what I have thought of. This one was particularly apt because, like I said, I've been thinking about this stuff as I am working on my author mentor match submissions and going through all of that. But it's always great to have these video ideas that I can pull out of my back pocket, especially now that I'm trying to get to a regular once a week schedule in 2022. So yes, I am uploading every single Friday in 2022 unless something comes up and I can't. And I also will sometimes upload on Tuesdays if I have an extra video that week. So stay tuned. At least next Friday, possibly next Tuesday, I will have a video up for y'all. And with that, please look at my description for causes that need your support. I have links there that you can check out, and I look forward to chatting with y'all in the comments.